Yesterday, I covered Floyd Mayweather, his lawsuit briefly, and him being sued by numerous people based on what has been reported. But overnight, I got my hands on the actual court filing, the real lawsuit. That's right. And let me tell you, I read through it page by page, and there are some sections in that filing, that lawsuit against Stephen Espinoza and Showtime, that people are misrepresenting, and you're not truly getting the full story. So please allow me and let me show you exactly what this is all about. And I will show proof of what the document says and why it now changes the story of Floyd Mayweather. Hey, yay. We are all gathered here for another episode of Boxingego Unpacked. Now, this ain't like the Unpacked that I did before. As I mentioned, I have 100% proof of what is going on with Floyd Mayweather. Stay tuned to the end of the video. Little by little, I painstakingly went through page after page after page of the official court filing. I had to redact one portion for privacy reasons, right? 'Cause I'm broadcasting it on a popular online platform, my platform, Boxingego. So to respect that, I covered that up. But outside of that, on the first page, I got the inside scoop on what's going on, what Floyd Mayweather is alleging, because they haven't went to court yet. And some of the things are alarming. They pose new questions, and I want to get into it. Now, it took me a minute because I am not like these other content creators. I give you guys real boxing news. I'm not clickbaiting you. I'm not forcing it, anything. So use my link me in the description if you want to support the channel. Multiple ways to do it. I really had to go through this. Like, this is a different video. I don't know how long it's going to run, but we will get started. But shout out to everybody for supporting Boxingego's channel. And if you like it, you like it. So without further ado, we shall get started. Okay, so right now we're on page 1 of the lawsuit, just to show you that everything's on the up and up, right? This is the part I had to redact because it had personal numbers and all that and effects. So we're not here for that. But as you see, Floyd J. Mayweather, aka Floyd Joy Mayweather, that's his name, Showtime Networks Incorporated, a Delaware corporation, and Stephen Espinoza, an individual. And then they got John Doe's 1 through 100, and these are the defendants. So I'm showing you that. You guys see that on the screen. And this is the introduction to what we're going to be discussing. And it's almost overwhelming. It's almost, to be honest, it's almost overwhelming because there's so much detail. Like, it's like pages. Look, this is pages. As you can see, I've highlighted through it. So I don't want to overwhelm y'all. Let's get started. So from the top, okay, introduction. Floyd, we now know he's officially suing Haymon. Introduction, the action seeks to recover hundreds of millions of dollars in misappropriated funds and damages resulting from a long-running and elaborate scheme of financial fraud, breaches of fiduciary duty, and conspiracy orchestrated by Floyd J. Mayweather, former manager and advisor Al Haymon, right? So I wanted to be clear, I am not a lawyer. I am not an attorney. In fact, I am a content creator. That is my job. I make content. Y'all know how that goes, right? So now that we're clear on that, Do not take this as like financial advice or anything like that. But for me, going back to what I just read, it is already extremely bizarre and weird that the opening intro names Al Haymon, the former advisor of Floyd Mayweather, what we thought was the dream team in boxing, right? But then on the first page where you declare who you're suing, Al Haymon's name isn't there. So that's already very weird for me, because if I was saying that, hey, my former advisor, he, with knowing knowledge and substantial participation, right, he defrauded me, his name should be on the actual defendant list. So for me, I feel like that's already weird. Like, did he have some kind of contract that protected him from being listed or being named? So you guys can discuss that in the comment section, what you believe to be the case, as far as like, how is the intro talking about Al Haymon, but he's not listed as a defendant? So I've highlighted it. Defendants, Showtime and Espinoza, president of Showtime Sports, played a critical role in facilitating misconduct. It is alleged that they diverted funds intended for Mayweather into accounts controlled by Al Haymon or his agents, we'll say. Claimed that critical financial records for Mayweather's biggest fights were lost or inaccessible, and failed to provide transparency despite clear contractual obligations and repeated requests for accounting. By wiring fight proceeds to accounts not directly accessible by Floyd Mayweather, such as an account at First Security Bank of Nevada held by counsel retained by Al Haymon, and by later asserting defenses like the statute of limitations while key documents were missing, Showtime and Espinoza enabled Al Haymon's scheme and stymied Mayweather's effort to uncover the truth. Now, it's Super Bowl Sunday. Most of y'all are getting ready to be with your family, be with your friends, be with your loved ones. But this is like a boxing Super Bowl. You have power players and they're now up against each other. So before the actual Super Bowl, you get the boxing version. Well, actually not, because they got to go to court about all this. But I'll keep going. 3, as a result of this scheme, Mayweather has suffered enormous financial harm from his reported $1.2 billion in career purses. At least $340 million is, quote, missing and unaccounted for. Conservative investment of those funds would likely have made that sum worth several billion today. In addition, Mayweather alleges that Showtime still owes him $20 million from a 2015 Andre Berto fight, a payout that was supposed to come from the proceeds of the Pacquiao fight, right? Mayweather brings this action to Showtime and Espinoza accountable for aiding and abetting Al Haymon's breach of duty, for participating in conspiracy to defraud him, and for the direct wrongs of conversion and unjust enrichment. He seeks not only the return of his misappropriated funds, but punitive damages to punish the defendants' willful and malicious conduct and deter similar misconduct in the future. Wow. So you guys can already tell it's in too deep. Pause. This is crazy, right? This is crazy. A lot going on. And for the sake of continuity, I'm not reading this whole thing. I did my best to try to cherry pick important parts, right, for you guys. Defendant Stephen Espinoza is an individual who served as president of Showtime Sports during the period in question. In that role, Espinoza oversaw Showtime's boxing programming, business dealings, including those involving Mayweather's fights. Espinoza departed Showtime amid its corporate restructuring in or around 2023 and has since reportedly joined Al Haymon in his boxing enterprise illustrating a continued relationship with Mayweather's fiduciary. So that comes up a lot in this particular lawsuit. Non-Al Haymon, Section 7, non-party Al Haymon was Mayweather's longtime manager, advisor, and alleged mastermind of the financial scheme. So again, my question to you, I'm not a judge. I am not the court. We have to see how it all plays out. I'm not even here to speculate. I'm just giving you guys the news and what we know because I have actual proof of the lawsuit. But my main question so far, I understand what's being alleged. Mayweather is saying Showtime owes me money. Pretty cut and dry. And this is upwards of $340 million, allegedly. And they're saying with inflation, you know, this number would be, it would swell, it would be even bigger, right? But what keeps circling back in my brain is this lawsuit, I'm only on page 3. This is a multiple page lawsuit, right? And I'm on page 3 and they already name dropped Al Haymon several times. We went over it. Boom, boom, boom. Haymon did this. Haymon is the mastermind. Haymon defrauded me. Haymon, Haymon, right? So my question is, how is he not named a defendant? What protection does he have? Like, it doesn't make any sense. There has to be more to it, and I'm trying to figure it out. So if you guys are familiar with law, is there some kind of, you know, written contract where it potentially prevented future like litigation against him? Or did they already settle this? So now Floyd is just going after Showtime because he feels he's owed more money. You know what I mean? Big question here. And I think that's a valid question that I have. So again, quick recap. So we're all on the same page. I told you it's going to be a real unpacked. I'm really doing my job. They're putting me to work now. Mayweather is alleging that at least $340 is missing, plus $20 million still owed from the Berto fight the year he fought Pacquiao, 2015. Page 1, he said he was systematically deprived of that money. And from a reported $1.2 billion, 340 still unaccounted for and lost. He's saying Showtime aided in this process and allowed Haymon to gaffle, you know, that's a little bit of slang, but pretty much gaffle Floyd, right? And then the next part of this lawsuit, it kind of goes over like who Al Haymon is, and Haymon was entrusted to take care of Floyd as his advisor. And that part gets, to me, it gets a little bit weird. It says he was a longtime manager and alleged mastermind. And Section 8 says non-party Jeff Morris is a certified public accountant and tax attorney who was engaged allegedly by Al Haymon without Mayweather's informed consent to handle Mayweather's tax and accounting matters. Morris is a signatory or controller on several bank accounts where Mayweather's fight earnings were deposited. So basically, this CPA or accountant, Jeff Morris, right, is the one that was in charge of handling Mayweather's taxes and financial. Morris's role in the scheme includes facilitating transfers and concealing information at Haymon's direction. 9, MGM and HBO, earlier in his bouts, are also involved in the background of this case. The MGM, what? MGM? I don't remember that part. Was party to certain revenue distribution arrangements with the live gate. So yeah, so he's attacking from all angles. Let's keep going. Section 10. Mayweather is informed and believes that other, as of yet, unidentified persons or entities designated as Does, like John Doe, also participated in or facilitated the wrongful conduct alleged herein. This may include individuals within Showtime / Paramount who handled accounting or others in Haymon's camp who manage funds. Now, again, I'm not a lawyer, but you're saying John Doe's helped and orchestrated this and there were participants, but without naming them in the court of law, I don't see how you really prove that. You guys let me know in the comment section. Like, you are filing suit against these people. Somehow Al Haymon is not listed as a defendant, but you're saying he did it, pointing the finger. So you're going at the people who allegedly were helping him. And then now you're saying John Doe's participated in it. It doesn't really give the court much to go off of. Floyd resides in Nevada, Espinoza in California, Showtime, a New York company, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this section, it says Mayweather's career and trust in Haymon, right? Sophisticated business guidance at a young age. Mayweather signed his first promotion with Top Rank, and it's kind of going over Floyd, young Floyd, and his background and establishing character. And it goes on to establish Haymon as the fiduciary and calls him the godfather, that Mayweather looked up to him as a godfather / a father figure. And this led to a lack of transparency because Al Haymon, he viewed him as a person. I mean, if you're looking at someone like a father figure, you're not really going to think that they would be swindling you or allegedly holding money, right? So he's saying he was duped, essentially, and he trusted Al Haymon was doing right by him, right? So let's keep going. Page 6. Got to get to page 6. Mayweather trusted Haymon implicitly, viewing him as a father figure, which I just went over. Haymon handled contract negotiations, TV deals, sponsorships, even personal expenditures and investments on Mayweather's behalf. Because Floyd was focused on training and boxing, he relied on Haymon's judgment in business matters. This reliance and reposal of trust created fiduciary duty on Haymon's part to act with the utmost loyalty, good faith, and candor towards Floyd Mayweather, right? 18, significantly, despite handling vast sums of Mayweather's money over many years, Haymon never instituted, this is what y'all got to pay attention to. You got to listen to the worded. So he was handling large sums of Floyd's money, but Haymon never instituted transparent reporting or independent oversight. No formal accounting statements were provided to Mayweather. Financial records were tightly controlled by Al Haymon and his chosen confidants, like the accountant that I mentioned earlier, Jeff Morris. When questions arose, Haymon often provided reassurances without documentation, and Mayweather, given his trust, often accepted those explanations. This lack of oversight set the stage for the concealed scheme described below. Now, again, it's not legal advice, but my opinion, that don't sound very strong to me. I'm not Perry Mason, Raymond Burr, but that don't really, for me, that don't really sound that jiggy. That don't sound too copacetic. You looked at Al Haymon as a father figure. He was handling all your stuff. You did at least 6 fights with him in Showtime, right, in that particular deal, because this is who you're suing. So I'm not even going to bring up the HBO stuff, right? And everything was seemingly fine and dandy in real time. But then you've been retired officially since about 2017 after the Conor McGregor fight. And then now you got this new team and you found all these leaky holes. But before, you were accepting non-documented. Like, what I'm saying here is you have to be in charge of your business, right? Floyd has years in the game. He would always talk about how he had, I got a hell of a team, Al Haymon, Stephen Espinoza. And we thought this was, from the outside looking in, we thought this was the dream team, right? This was like the dream team and everything was good. And this document is proving that you trusted these people and you allowed Haymon to not have to show you transparent records, which you're now trying to seek several years later. You see how that complicates things? It becomes more complex. Like, imagine this. Imagine if you worked at a job for 13 years, but then you stop working for that job for 10 years. And then 10 years later, you're like, wait, that old job, they still owe me money. I forgot about that. So now you're trying to get handled, what you thought you were owed or whatever, but 10 years has passed. You get what I'm saying? So it would be easier in real time to say, hey, I'm gonna get my own accountant. And then they could do like the Ben Affleck movie, The Accountant, where he suffered from autism, but he was this brilliant accountant with numbers and all that. Great movie, by the way. I even like the sequel, right? Get someone to do some forensic accounting, and then he would go into these businesses and he would be able to find out where people pencil whip this, fudge the numbers, this don't check out, this don't add up, blah, blah, blah. And then he's seen, okay, you were embezzling money and you were taking out this amount and putting it to the side, blah, blah, blah. You guys get it. So the point I'm making is it's always going to be easier in real time if you capture these details. So Floyd had enough money, in my opinion, to have gotten a second opinion. Like, if you go to a doctor and the doctor says something and you don't like the prognosis and you have money like Floyd, at least at that point, right? Go to another doctor. Get your own doctor and see what they say. And then compare notes and stuff like that. You said you just, like, pretty much you just admitted that Haymon controlled everything and you went along with it. That, like, your own words in your own lawsuit. And you're just leaning on, oh, he was a father figure and I trusted him. 19. Over approximately, this was interesting to me. Over approximately 2 decades of managing Mayweather, Haymon engaged in a pattern of financial manipulation and self-dealing behind Mayweather's back. Schemes included inter alia, diverting portions of Mayweather's fight earnings under false pretenses that Haymon then kept or controlled, routing fight revenues into secret accounts that Mayweather did not know about or have access to, paying himself and his associates large sums from Mayweather's funds without authorization, D, concealing and altering documentation to cover up these activities. Haymon's conduct, as alleged, was a blatant breach of fiduciary duties of loyalty, candor, and care owed to Mayweather. Each aspect of the scheme detailed below. Banking records obtained recently by Mayweather's team show a pattern of large transfers from the above accounts to Allen Haymon Development Incorporated and other Haymon-owned entities. These transfers were often labeled as, quote, repayment or, quote, loan payoff, falsely suggesting that Haymon had advanced money to Mayweather at some earlier time, which was now being reimbursed. Mayweather insists he never received such loans from Haymon. The effect was systematically move Mayweather's earnings into Haymon's coffers under false pretenses. What? For example, over the course of years, tens of millions would be moved to Allen Haymon, development shortly after major fights, draining the account that held Mayweather's money. So I'm still very confused, and this is what Mayweather's team is going to have to come up with. The way you're outlining it, you're making it sound sketch, right? You're saying this Morris character, the accountant, was doing whatever. Haymon was saying he was paying you back for a loan, but you never took a loan, yada, yada, yada. So my question here is, the way you're making it sounds like blatantly things are moving without your permission. How did you not see any of this in real time and feel like, hey, like, yo, where's my money at? You know what I mean? Like, so something sounds a bit off to me. I'm just being real with y'all. It sounds a bit off because you're making it sound like this was right in front of your face. At least that's the way I'm interpreting this lawsuit, right? You're like, oh, Al Haymon, he did this and gave my money to someone else after big fights, and I just allow like you just were cool with that. Anyway, section 22. Haymon took great pains to ensure that Mayweather remained unaware of these accounts and transactions. This is corroborated by statements from insiders. But who? What insiders, right? That Haymon only permitted Floyd to see what Haymon wanted him to see. Actively hid documentation. In one communication, Haymon directed Morris, accountant, to send Floyd only the signature pages of contracts or forms, with Haymon's handwritten notes explicitly said he doesn't want Floyd to see the documents. This level of control prevented Mayweather from discovering the outflows of the money, of his money. It was a direct breach of Haymon's fiduciary duty to provide full disclosure of material facts related to Mayweather's finances. So again, I don't see how this even happened, to be honest. I really don't. Like, you're making it like this was like in plain sight. And I'm gonna be real. This hurts Floyd in this regard, the imagery department. And I'm gonna explain why. Because for years, Floyd Mayweather would make these statements where he was like, I got a great team. I done robbed a bank. I robbed a bank twice. I make the most. And your whole world has embodied this flashy, lavish lifestyle, of sorts. And I feel like that's in tatters now, because he always said, like, I'm a smart businessman. I'm a shrewd businessman. And the way Floyd outlined it, he made it sound like Haymon and my team is great, but I'm a smart businessman as well. And that's why we make this dream team. But according to these documents, if what you're alleging was exactly how it went down, in my personal opinion, it looks weird. It looks bad. Like, you're seeing sticky notes like, don't show him page 1 through 50, just sign page 51 and 52. And you're not in any type of control. That's what I'm saying. The imagery is gone. The imagery is over. Like, all that, like, I'm a smart businessman, because this is, to me, nobody else is gonna just blindly start filling out stuff or have these type of questions and just go with the show and go with the program. That's my take on it, right? So page 8, they're talking about Showtime wired Mayweather's proceeds, not to Floyd, but to these controlled accounts. This is what's being alleged, to First Security Bank, an account for the tax accountant, the counsel guy, Jeff Morris, including the many Pacquiao, I want to, Pacquiao distribution arrangement, right? So there's a section in that where the question comes up, why would a broadcaster wire to someone else's account, right? And that's on page 8. They're like, hey, we don't get this. Why would they wire it to someone else's account instead of, the party that deserves it or whatever? Moreover, following Haymon suffering a medical issue, a stroke. So we heard there were some issues in 2023 around the Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia fight, Errol Spence Crawford fight, and now, according to the court document, is pretty much confirmed. They're saying that Al Haymon had a stroke late 2023. And this part was interesting. It says there was a sudden exodus of key members of Mayweather's camp. 5 of Mayweather's longtime lawyers abruptly retired, withdrew from representation within a 3-month span. This timing raised suspicion that those individuals may have been aware or complicit in aspects of the hidden scheme, and to choose to distance themselves once Haymon was incapacitated and the situation risked exposure. To date, Many records remain missing. Now, again, I am not a lawyer or a judge, but I know how courtroom dramas unfold. And for me, this is purely speculative. It literally says that Mayweather had 3 lawyers when Haymon suffered a medical emergency, and these lawyers withdrew and resigned and retired. And it says this timing raised suspicion. This is a direct quote. This is not ego telling you some opinion. I'm not paraphrasing. It literally says this. This timing raised suspicion that those individuals may have been aware or complicit of aspects of the hidden scheme, and they chose to distance themselves once Haymon was incapacitated. That is completely and utterly 100% a speculative statement. And in the court of law, you can't be like, this person committed this X atrocity. And then when they ask you, how do you know that? You give them circumstantial evidence like, I know. Why did they all retire? So from me, this lawsuit, it doesn't look like without flaw, in my honest opinion. Again, see, there's a difference between like arguing with people online, on YouTube, in the comments, or on Twitter, because you can say whatever, you don't have to prove it. It's the internet. But in the court of law, it's very specific. You can't pin something on somebody without having tangible proof. Like, for example, some cops, some detectives will not, or DAs or whatever, they will not like choose to prosecute, even though they're pretty sure this is the person that committed this crime, that unalived this person or whatever, until they get compelling forensic evidence, right? Till they get your alibi is now broken up. You said you were at your baby mama's house. We talked to her and she said you weren't there. Now your alibi has been torn apart and you don't have, your whereabouts are unknown because your alibi didn't check out, right? They need these types of compelling, like mostly definitive things, like forensic. You said you never met the victim, but then your DNA was in the victim's apartment, but you've never been in their apartment, and you say you didn't know him. Why is your fingerprint there? In the struggle, you got cut and you're bleeding. Why is your blood there if you've never been there? You see what I'm saying? That's forensic. That is detailed. This says this timing raised suspicion that the individuals may have been aware. To me, that don't sound good. Y'all let me know in the comment section what y'all feel. But that don't sound like convincing, compelling evidence that will hold up. They retired because they knew. I know they must have known something. Based on what? What if they were 78 years old and they have been practicing law for 40 plus years, 50 years, and they just were done? You know, they want to spend time with their wife or something. You know what I mean? You don't know why people retire. That isn't indeed, that's not, to me, if I was a judge or jury, that's not definitive enough for me. Indeed, when Mayweather's new team asked Showtime in 2024 for documentation of fight revenues and expenses, they were told some records, for example, payout spreadsheets for Pacquiao and McGregor fights, were lost in a flood. All right. We're on page 9. Showtime compiled with that direction. By doing so, Showtime effectively delivered Mayweather's money straight into Al Haymon's hands, since Haymon controlled Jeff Morrison's actions. Given the size of the transfers, hundreds of millions, 150, and the unusual nature of paying a fighter via third-party lawyer's trust account, this should have raised red flags within Showtime. But again, this should have raised red flags within you. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know. I need to see what y'all think. But for me, you keep saying like, oh, this is a red flag. I feel like it should have been a red flag for you if you've seen all this stuff going on and your money wasn't showing up and stuff. Like, it shouldn't just been a red flag for everybody else. But what do I know? That's just my 2 cents. Indeed, Espinoza publicly acknowledged that Haymon often stayed out the background and let others like lawyers or promoters formally handle business, a pattern dating back to Al Haymon's business days. Again, so a person doesn't want to be in front of the camera. What does that mean? That doesn't make you suspicious. Some people don't want to be at the forefront, in front of. Some people love it. Some people don't. Some people do it just because it's their job. But again, that doesn't really prove anything. Mayweather's representative made numerous requests, verbally, emails seeking to obtain records, notwithstanding Showtime claims that they were located off-site storage facility would be retrieved, and the records were never provided to Mayweather. After Showtime exited boxing 2023, now here, this is again weird. Steven Espinoza quickly aligned himself with Al Haymon's Premier Boxing Champs venture. December 2023, reports emerge via boxing insider Rick Glazer. Bro, this man, Rick Glazer, has been wrong so many times. So, oh my gosh. The fact that they quoted Rick Glazer in this lawsuit, it kind of smell, hey son, you smell that? It smell kind of desperate, bro. Because if I'm not in this, I don't have a dog in the race or whatever. But if this were me, right, and I was arguing against Floyd's side, and you brought up him, the boxing insider, I would bring up all of his tweets where he was really wrong and off the mark and said this was going to happen and not, because that's your credible witness. That, to me, I don't know, that looks suspect that you even mentioned him. But, and anybody in the boxing field, they know what I'm talking about. Espinoza had been hired by Al Haymon to help run PBC's new broadcasting deal with Amazon Prime. But peep this. In other words, Espinoza went from ostensibly representing the interests of a broadcast partner, Showtime, to being on Haymon's payroll. Boom, boom, boom. Like, this is your golden aha, I gotcha moment. Like, really? He went from he went from representing the interests of a broadcast partner, Showtime, to being on Al Haymon's payroll. Now, peep, this move casts retrospective light on Espinoza's actions during the Showtime years. It suggests, again, look at the verbiage. See, I'm real big on verbiage, the human, like just language and linguistics. It suggests that Espinoza may have had a motivation to keep Haymon, quote, or parentheses, a powerful supplier of content and now his future boss, happy. Bro, what don't you guys understand that Boxingego is telling you? This is pure speculation. This move casts retrospective light. No, it doesn't, right? Based on his actions during his Showtime years, it suggests that Espinoza may have had. That don't sound good. This don't sound like legal like, I want to hear Espinoza did this. I can prove he did this. He did this because of Exhibit A, blah, blah, blah. Not he was working at Showtime and then Showtime got out of the business of boxing, so he didn't have a job because in 2023, Paramount, the parent company, or Viacom at that time, decided that they didn't want to continue boxing coverage, so he didn't have a job, so he naturally got in business with the people that he had been working with when he was with Showtime. Like, to me, that's not a gotcha moment. That's not a, oh, aha, got him. This proves he was working for Haymon, best interest, or whatever you're trying to say here. I don't get that. Like, I feel like it would be the natural inclination of a person if you did 6 fights with the highest grossing ever boxer, Floyd Mayweather. You did the Mayweather Pacquiao, the Mayweather McGregor, Errol Spence fights. Deontay the Bronze Mama Wilder, oh my God, from Tuscaloosa, Alabama to this day, right? You did all these other big fights on Showtime. At the helm was Al Haymon, and then your job gets restructured. Steven Espinoza, he didn't get fired like, oh, you're doing a horrible job. The whole company decided, just like HBO a couple years before Showtime, decided that we want to invest our resources in other programming, not boxing. No more, no less. They're just basically saying that boxing is not a significant enough attraction to like where people are buying Showtime exclusively for boxing. So we'd rather invest in this and that. And that's what happens when you get new owners or whatever. So to me, that's not a real gotcha moment where it proves that he was doing seedy business with Al Haymon because he lost his job due to a restructure. And then now you're making it sound like he got advanced or promoted, you know what I mean, for doing his biddings or like, what are we talking about, bro? Espinoza may have had a motivation to keep Haymon a powerful supplier of content and now his future boss happy, even if it meant turning a blind eye to irregularities. Indeed, public comments by Espinoza have consistently defended Haymon. For example, in a Washington Post interview, Espinoza downplayed Haymon's secrecy, stating Haymon doesn't need to be seen and that he stayed in the background even in the music business. Espinoza's familiarity with Haymon's methods support an interference that Espinoza knew Haymon was likely doing things unconventionally, if not improperly, with Mayweather's money, yet Espinoza did nothing to alert Mayweather or intervene. Again, how is this not speculation? It says you're just saying he knew. How are you gonna say he knew? Like, there's people that live next to Dahmer or whoever, right? There's certain people that they were neighbors and they didn't know what this person was doing in their apartment and they lived right next door, right? They might have spoke, they might have, the kids might have played with each other, walked dogs together, talked. That don't mean you know what somebody's doing anyway. So my first question still remains, how do all this stuff, well, my first question was, why is Al Haymon not a defendant? Doesn't make sense. Because all you're doing is saying he did it. And all these third party people like Morris, the accountant, the tax counsel guy, Steven Espinoza, you're like, it sounds like you're trying to implicate Haymon, but then for whatever reason, he's not listed as a defendant. And then you're blaming all these other people for like aiding in it. And then again, I from reading this, I'm not seeing like the proof of it, like the proof that this is happening. So we'll have to wait and see what happens in court. Showtime and Espinoza were aware that Haymon was acting as Mayweather's manager advisor. They were also aware, or certainly should have been, that Haymon was not reporting or behaving like a typical manager who simply takes a percentage. Again, to me, I feel like I'm not a fan of this lax language. You just said they were also aware or should have been. Which one is it? Like, to me, from what I learned in court, you got to be definitive, like yes or no. Like if you're on the stand and they say, did you know John Doe? Yes or no. Don't be like, oh, I think no. Is a yes or no question. So you're saying they were aware, but then you lighten it and say, or should have been. So how do you prove all this stuff you're saying based on this? And I guess that's what the court's for. Damages and ongoing impact. Financial harm to Mayweather is massive. As noted, at least $340 million of his earnings misappropriated or remain unaccounted for, right? Unaccounted for. So they're saying his money is messed up from that, including historically lucrative Pacquiao fight, which alone should have netted him roughly $240 million, right? And others. Beyond the principal sum, The loss of investment potential is enormous. Even a conservative index fund might double money 7 to 10 years. Again, so you're saying like I lost this money and I would have been able to invest in other stuff if I had the money? I mean, I guess. Mayweather's ability to generate such income again through fighting is limited. See that? Him generating money through fighting is limited as he is now semi-retired and 48 years old. So I got to be real, man. I don't like how this is looking, y'all. Thus, the opportunity cost is irretrievable, warranting a significant award of prejudgment interest and or loss of use damages on top of the raw amount. So that the way they reference that to me was I don't know, because it's basically saying Floyd is an older fighter. Boxing, we know, is a young man's sport, and he can't really fight. You know, he's not going to fight Jerron in his prime at pushing 50 years old, right? So he can't really make money that way. So all these things that seemingly you didn't bring up, you didn't mention, you were saying I got the best team and all that. Now I want retribution for these past like transgressions because I can't fight no more and I'm semi-retired. And then you look at it, Floyd is fighting in Athens against some guy I've never heard of and posting that he's fighting Mike Tyson. Like, how do we get here? So for me, from the outside looking in, that doesn't look that great. Like, why is Floyd still fighting? And then I already made a video where people are suing him, right? This is all documented stuff. 35, conduct of defendants as alleged was willfully malicious and fraudulent. Showtime Espinoza acting in conscious. See, and that's the other thing. Earlier from the portions I read, and you can rewind this video, you were saying we think Espinoza had knowledge of this or should have and turned a blind eye. But then now in section 35, in the summary, you're saying Showtime and Espinoza acted in conscious disregard of Mayweather's rights by abetting Haymon's scheme or at least remaining deliberately indifferent to the obvious irregularities. So let me put this in perspective for you good people. What doesn't make sense about that is this. You're saying that Al Haymon orchestrated all this and had a bunch of puppet people in places doing this and moving money. We already went over that, right? You're now in section 35, you're saying that Showtime allowed it, Espinoza allowed it because he was the president and they were just like allowing it, and Haymon was doing some other stuff and they don't know, and they were just like, all right, whatever. And then now Haymon hired Espinoza for doing a good job or being subservient or whatever you think is going on, allegedly, right? Here's what doesn't make sense. I'm gonna read it again. The conduct of the defendants as alleged was willfully malicious and fraudulent. Showtime and Espinoza acted in conscious disregard of Mayweather's rights by abetting Haymon's schemes or at least remaining deliberately indifferent to the obvious irregularities. So my question is this. You're saying they were indifferent to obvious irregularities, right? And they should have spotted it. But you didn't spot it. And you're the fighter. And it's allegedly your money. So this is why how it's pinned and articulated is not sounding good. You're blaming them, saying that, oh, they should have known that they were obvious. Or if it was so obvious, then why didn't you know? Why didn't you know that you were getting schemed on? Like that don't make sense to me. So how it's just everybody else's fault, but not yours. And then you're without so much showing it, you're saying they did all these things and they should have known. Then why didn't you know? You know what I mean? You should know what's going on under the hood too. You know what I mean? That's like I could think of some examples, but I don't want the video to be too much longer, so we'll just keep going. Putting profits and business relationships above the duty to be honest with Mayweather is despicable conduct. The amount involved, hundreds of millions, also calls for substantial punitive award to deter similar conduct for sports entertainment, yada, 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 where powerful managers or networks might otherwise be tempted to exploit superstar talent. Aiding and abetting breach of fiduciary duty, misappropriated funds, self-dealings with conflict. As set forth, Al Haymon, he breached fiduciary duties to Mayweather through extensive misappropriation and deceit. Haymon's breach is the underlying wrongdoing of this aiding and abetting. Again, why is he not on here though? How is he not the number one defendant? What happened, bro? Financial conduit, lack of oversight of objection, concealment, and stonewalling. Mayweather's team began investigating. Showtime did not come clean. Instead, they gave excuses about missing records and time-barred claims. This helped Haymon by delaying discovery of the full scope of the breach by not volunteering information or documents in their possession, like internal email. I mean, this is rough. This is getting kind of rough for me, because what business is prepared to just get audited on the spot and have everything like ready to go? Like, they're talking about internal emails. You know how many emails I get a day? Brand deals and people hitting up me, asking me to do videos about, you know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about? Showtime shielded Al Haymon. Even after Haymon was sidelined by health issues, Showtime did not take the opportunity to assist Mayweather. Rather, they continued to resist transparency. This behavior in 2024 constitutes aiding and abetting, as it furthered Haymon's goal of avoiding accountability. Benefit and alignment. Showtime benefited from its cozy relationship with Haymon. This sounds like some like you like Takashi, you telling right now. He delivered top boxing content. Espinoza personally had an interest in keeping Haymon pleased, leading to his future employment. Bro, this is getting kind of worse. You're basically saying he did all this deceitful, malicious stuff, so that's why Espinoza got a job. How do you prove that? How do you prove that? Because Ryan Coogler, director from my neck of the woods, Bay Area, Northern California, yee, right? Ryan Coogler did Fruitville Station with Michael B. Jordan, right? They had success. It was an instant cult classic, right? And then they did Creed. Then they did Black Panther. Then they did Sinners, right? So my point is this. Why does Coogler keep working with Michael B. Jordan? I'm sure they've, over that span of time, doing all these movies and different characters, they've developed a bond, developed a friendship, and it's a proven formulaic, like, chemistry. It's a formula that has worked. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You dig? So why would, if Espinoza got displaced because his company, not because, sales are down or you stole money from the company, he got displaced because they're not covering boxing. They're not covering sports like that. So wouldn't it be the natural progression to get employed by somebody that you are already working with and you know their methods and you produce magic, a la Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan? But you keep this, this lawsuit keeps saying that like Espinoza had personal interest and he was doing Haymon's bidding, so that's why it said leading to his future employment. How do you substantiate that in the court of law? That's all I'm saying. This alignment of interest led them to side with Haymon rather than Mayweather when conflicts arose. For example, if there was a dispute whether certain expenses were legitimate, Showtime effectively sided with Haymon's accounting. By serving Haymon's interest, they assisted him, right? But bro, at any job that has an employee that don't work with the company anymore, and then they come back and want to speak to HR and they're like, hey, my check was wrong 8 years ago. What are y'all doing? So we haven't seen you in 8 years or whatever. You're doing your own thing, doing exhibitions. You're no longer an employee here. You think they're just going to have all this stuff on deck? I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. Civil conspiracy to commit fraud against Showtime and Espinoza. Plaintiff re-alleges each of the foreshadowing paragraphs as of full set forth herein, blah, blah, blah. Routing funds to a secret account, overt act 1. Recording false expenses, overt act 2. Misrepresentation and concealment, overt act 3. Stephen Espinoza, acceptance of a role with Haymon. Again, why? Like, for me, how is this your talking point? You keep talking about how Espinoza is working with Haymon. Why would he not work with Haymon if they're not mad at each other? They're making money together still, right? Barrios is about to fight Ryan Garcia. You don't think that they're getting a cut of that when Frank Martin, the PBC fighter's on the card? Barrios is a WBC champion fighting Ryan. You see what I'm saying? So I don't see how this is an overt act. In late 2023, Espinoza negotiating an agreement to work for Haymon's PBC, while not illegal itself, evidences the tight relationship. Okay, so you just admit, so they proved my point in this lawsuit. It's not illegal to be employed by someone you've already been working with in the past. If, as Mayweather suspects, bro, is this a public defender? It says, as Mayweather suspects, part of Espinoza's deal included not speaking out on Mayweather money issue or continuing to shield. How is your case built on if Mayweather suspects? That is not concrete proof that the court usually desires and needs. The agreement and Espinoza's silence are overt acts of consolidating the conspiracy. The object of the conspiracy was unlawful, encompassed fraud, misrepresentation, concealment, conversion, theft of funds. Primary purpose was to cause injury to Mayweather while benefiting the conspirators. The conspirators must have had intent to harm or to benefit themselves. Knowing harm to another is substantially certain. Here, Al Haymon clearly intended to harm financially Floyd Mayweather by taking his money. Showtime Espinoza may not have harbored personal ill will towards Mayweather, but they acted intentionally to assist Haymon's ends to benefit themselves or their company. Knowing that natural and necessary consequence was that Mayweather would be deprived of his rightful funds. This suffices for the malice element of conspiracy. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's kind of more of the same. I highlighted most of the parts that stood out. In aid of this claim, Mayweather seeks the imposition of a constructive trust over any funds or assets traceable to misappropriated earnings. And then finally, signed and dated February 3rd, 2026. Wow. I told you I had a full unpack for y'all. So I went over kind of the sticking points for me in terms of, what really stood out here. So in conclusion, for me, based strictly on what I'm reading in this official document and filing of the lawsuit, a lot of these claims, they kind of hinge on interference rather than stone cold hard proof. And there are big numbers. These are big, serious accusations about defrauding someone and you did this intentionally. But if you read the full document like I have, the document leans heavily on conclusions without attaching the underlying contracts. They don't have like the forensics and the bank statements or written agreements or pacts. These things are the things that would normally anchor a case like this. And you would have to provide. You have to provide and show and prove what you're saying. So it doesn't mean that nothing happened. It just means the lawsuit as written, it leaves a lot of unanswered questions. I can't wait to see what happens next. I will continue to give you unbiased, fair coverage for this and any other subject. But for me, when I strip it down and go line by line, paragraph by paragraph, I have more questions than I have answers from Mayweather's side, right? You're blaming Showtime, Paramount, Espinoza, and saying they knew. But how do you prove that? How do you prove they knew? These are the questions. Let me know what you think. For more deep dives like this, I have a series called Unpacked. Use my link me to get to all my links. We're multi-platform. Shout out to everybody. I know some people are going to support the channel. It's all in the link me. I took my time with this one. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I need detailed comments breaking down what you feel. I've already told you what I feel. I want to know now from you what you feel in my comment section. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxingego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Live streaming can be tough, which is why I use StreamYard. Click the link in the description for StreamYard, which is an awesome tool that enables you to set up your stream with ease of use. Get great results with live streaming. It's what I use. Stream to social media with ease with StreamYard. Live streaming is here to stay. Engage with your audience using StreamYard. Great way to reach out to your audience and connect. So you need a tool that can do that. If you're new to YouTube and you're struggling to get views, one tool I can provide to you is TubeBuddy. I've been on YouTube over 10 years. I use TubeBuddy daily to crank out videos just like this one that you're watching. Learn how the pros do it with TubeBuddy. YouTube receives a lot of traffic, which also means a lot of creators, a lot of people putting out content. So you need to learn the ropes so you know how to separate yourself, especially if you're new. But even if you're a pro, use TubeBuddy. The link is in the description. Get more views, more subscribers, and a higher click-through rate. So ultimately,